Welcome, everyone, to End of Life Conversations Dispatch, right? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, weekly dispatch
Our
again.
weekly dispatch, where we contemplate just the happenings of this world and how death is constantly around us and just bring in our own light to these little pockets where grief and death are happening that are hard
Yeah,
for us to acknowledge. So I am the
yeah,
Reverend Mother, Ana Luisa Armendariz, and my dearest co-host.
yeah. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you all again. Wakil David Matthews. And yeah, we've been talking. We're always talking. We just can't stop talking about these things. and
Yes.
yeah, and just thinking about, especially when people are, whether they're close to the end themselves, maybe they're elderly or maybe they're ill, or there's a lot of other reasons they might be less receptive to conversations. And we were talking about that the other day, and on a friend of
Mhm.
Ana Luisa's. So that might be, we
Yes.
thought that'd be a fun subject to chat about.
Well, and it is fun for us because we like to think about tools we can offer other people when we encourage them to talk to loved ones and friends and family, neighbors about being normalizing death, and it's coming for us all. And
Hmm.
I was thinking about it. There's been a couple of different situations that I found myself in the last few weeks. And first of all, let's remind everybody about me. Like I talk about death very naturally all the time. It comes up in just conversations around town, and I'm very comfortable. And there are very few times when I elect not to discuss it. I
Hmm.
think that once I open that portal for people, generally people wanna just kinda come close and talk about what they're feeling, what they experience, their fears. I think it's kind of this pastoral piece of mine that I have.
Hmm.
And yet
Yeah.
I sat with a friend of mine last week, and this friend of mine has cancer, and it has shifted, and they are currently at the end of their, medication that's been keeping them going for a couple of years,
Hmm.
and they expressed to me, what's going on and and it was fine. Like, they were very matter of fact about what what's happening,
Hmm.
and I didn't try to push, like, "How are you feeling?" Or I just said, "So, well, you know, I'm glad that we're here today having coffee again, talking
Hmm.
about books." And their response was like, "Yes, I'm gonna keep doing this until I'm really not able to." And then the next piece was that I started talking about a festival that I'm creating right now around death and dying, and they asked a lot of questions. And suddenly, because I spoke about it as an educational forum for people to come with their questions, with their
Hmm.
curiosities, with their fears, to be able to discuss it, I noticed in their face a sudden, like, I would call it a sadness,
Hmm.
possibly a fear, just like I sense the shift.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I realized, like, I was so excited to keep talking about this. And it felt like that person wasn't really ready to be in that container.
Yeah.
And I very easily just, shifted. I ended up talking about something silly that was also gonna be part of the festival, and then we continued on. And what I came home thinking about it quite a bit because I realized we talk about this. Everybody is at their on their own journey with death and dying.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own lived experiences that are going to be very different from everybody else's.
Yeah.
We
Everyone. Yeah.
and everywhere, and so what I wanted to comment today is there will be times in this conversation it might feel closed or tough or there's a barrier or you see a reluctance, and I want us to find ways to both honor what that person is feeling and also learn how to language it so that we don't say something that's going to be, like, really make it harder for everybody. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want I wanna play with language today.
Yeah. That's so important. And I think, it does come up. I think it has come up for me too with people who are, when I was working in hospice, who people were close already. And, they were like, I know this is coming. Really don't want to talk about it right now. Let's talk about something else.
Right.
And so I think that's always I think part of what we can think about here and help express perhaps is how what do we look for? What do we watch for? How do we pay attention? And this is comes back to the practice of listening, this compassionate listening and paying close attention and letting go of your own need to, talk about yourself or to talk about what's important to you and really
Mhm.
paying close attention to the person that you're with and how the person you're companioning in a way that you can tell, like you did, that, "Oh, yeah, there's a change, that this is not
Mhm.
hitting home right now. Maybe I
Mhm.
need to think about a different direction to come from."
Mhm.
Um, so, yeah, and then, and then where do you go from there? What are the directions that you might go? Especially if somebody's just I think you told a great story once of somebody in the park who always said you didn't wanna talk about
Oh, that's right.
death and dying, and you kinda pointed out that fall was happening, you know?
And there was a dead goose nearby, so I was like, "That's a dead critter, like,
Yeah,
it's happening."
yeah. Yeah. So what are your
Yeah,
thoughts about how would you direct something that if somebody just first of all, like your friend, when you change the subject, you move to something different. Any other thoughts about which direction or what direction? I guess it's gonna be depend on the person and on the moment, but
it's going to be really contingent on how comfortable you as the engager of this topic
yeah.
have feel. So, 2 things. 1, are you resourced? And that means, are you ready to spend some time in this moment? If you offer the invitation to open up to whatever they're feeling, are you prepared to sit and listen?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes I feel like somebody might you there might be a situation where somebody notices that and says, "Oh, like, are you okay?" And the other person sees that as or hears that as an invitation to like, "No, I'm not okay. I need to like talk about this." And then the original person's like, "Well, I don't actually have time to hear all this. Like, I
Right.
need to go." Right?
Yeah.
Which is very I mean, I don't judge that because we all come to our these moments in
Yeah.
whatever way we come to, but what I would offer people is here's a scenario. You're with a friend. That friend has, let's say, a terminal illness. You've been listening to our podcast and you're like, I want to support my friend. I want to get them ready. And, I'm ready to talk about this. And you say, like, do you want to talk about this? Have you
Mhm.
prepared for death and dying process?
Mhm. Yeah.
And you'll notice one of two things. You'll notice either like leaning in, yes, I would love to talk about this because I'm very confused about XYZ and I don't know who to talk to. Or the
Mhm.
opposite, which could be, I'm not okay with this. In
Yeah.
which case, there's no need to insist.
Mhm.
But if you really do want to continue to offer your support, say, well, if you're ever in need of somebody to bounce some ideas or you have questions, maybe I can help you out with that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
I
always be flexible.
yeah, exactly. And open to we talk about this in the class that I give about before you go plan end of life planning. People often ask, "How do I even get this conversation started with family that don't really want to
Hmm.
talk about it?" And I often just suggest baby steps, just even something as just sort of thinking about what kind of leads toward this conversation, but isn't necessarily deep into it. Like things like,
Hmm.
"Hey, that's a really beautiful painting. Have you thought about who you want to have that go to when you're gone?" Or things like that. Just small kind of steps toward organization, toward cleaning things up, towards you know what how would you like to contribute your body to the earth?
Yeah.
And what do you think about composting, or what do you think about green burial, or just and sometimes it
Or
can be as yeah, just like any kind of like open question.
or
Um,
as silly as, do you believe in ghosts? And if you're a
yeah,
ghost, how are you going to come back and make sure I know that it's you?
yeah, that, we've had experiences with that here we've heard podcast people on our podcast have experiences. So I don't know if that's silly or not. That might actually be a real thing. I am
It's a
not
real
judging
thing.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
yeah,
think
that
that
kind of conversation and fun, kind of stepping into the kind of the fun, you know, explorations like philosophical questions and
right.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, and I think that with my experience last week with my friend, I just realized that, I don't need to insist that, is your advanced care directive plan done? Do you have
Yeah.
your funeral arrangements done? Do your kids have, whatever? I did mention that, statistic we heard from one of our guests was that 61% of children whose family did not have their stuff organized, the siblings never ended up talking to each other again. Like, there
Yeah.
was such a rift with it, right? So I did mention that, and they were really surprised. They're like, "Whoa, that's a high number." I'm like, "Yep, this
Yeah.
is where normalizing conversations is really imperative for the health of an ongoing relationship with the kids,
Yeah.
actually." But I was just thinking about I'm so matter of fact with death and dying and in arenas where people aren't in that moment immediately.
Mhm.
But I do want to be sensitive to, folks who are really struggling with the imminent end, which is, terminal illness. Or I've had a friend who was pregnant with a baby they knew was going to be dead within hours, if not a few days of being born.
Mm.
And what is the how do we present support without being, both uncomfortable and make somebody else uncomfortable? So, for me, it was just like, I just wanna be like, "I really love you. I just really
Mhm.
admire you. I'm really grateful that you're in my life."
Yeah.
And that's all I had to say that afternoon, just because I really mean it. And at the end of the day, no matter how much Joaquin and I insist that people do their work, many of you won't,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
okay. We
Yeah.
still love you.
Yeah. Yes, we certainly do. And, that whole idea, just take your time, do as much as you can. I like to make appointments for myself to spend a little more time working on my next of kin box, which has all the parts that
Mhm,
I need to have done or my wife needs to have done. And,
mhm,
so, and there's still stuff that hasn't gotten finished yet, and that's okay, I'm
mhm,
not
mhm.
beating myself up over it, and that's kind of a tendency. I don't know, maybe everybody else doesn't have this tendency, but to, sort of, should all over yourself, as my teacher used to say, and think,
That's
I
right.
just haven't done enough, and I'm never gonna get it done, and blah, blah, blah. So work a little bit on it or not, and when like you said, I love that what you were talking about your friend with the baby that sometimes the only response is just to be present and let them know they are loved and held.
Mhm,
And that's
mhm.
all you can do, and that's all that needs to be done.
That's
Uh,
right.
and sometimes
Yeah.
that's grace. That's beauty right there. Just being that person who can just sit there quietly and
Mhm,
hold them whether they
mhm,
want to be physically held or not, but held in your
mhm,
love and in your light and your
mhm,
grace. Yeah.
mhm. I'm also gonna share that this weekend. I was just telling Wakil before we got on that I happened to invite someone over who I wasn't in relationship with, but I wanted to learn more about this person. And they also offered me, an aspect of what they're going through was they have very deep grief that they as they pointed out, like, "I can't believe I can't get over this," is what
Mm.
how they languaged it. And it was for, grieving the loss of a pet.
Hmm.
And I just had to remind them that our culture doesn't like people mourning or grieving, even for humans, right? We get 3 days bereavement, and then you gotta,
Get back to work.
buck up. Yeah, buck up.
Yeah.
Get into the grind again. And, I just didn't know because I didn't know this person, I also felt like there was a deep, embarrassment, like, because the tears
Mm.
started coming out, and I was like, "You know what? I'm good with this, like, enjoy your tears, and let's sit down and just hold space for the love that you have for your pet." Like, it's still there. There is
Yeah.
no, like, brushing it under the rug right now while we sit here. So, you know, you'll notice this sometimes when you're with people, and if they're people who you don't know, maybe it might be kinda strange, and yet, if you have the time and the energy, put forth this invitation to, "Hey, like, I see that, you're still really sad about your loss. Like, let's just stand here for a little bit and, please go ahead, feel free to cry, and it's okay. Like, no
Mhm.
judgment, no
Mhm.
shame. And when you're ready, we can, like, move on, but I don't need to hurry up past this."
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It kinda comes back to what you said about resource, making sure that you have the time and the energy and the emotional resource to be there for people
Mhm.
if that's something you're going to
Mhm.
dive into.
Mhm.
And I like to I often thank people when they cry
Yes, you
for
do.
sharing their tears, you know. And
Yes, you
I've had people do
that's
that
true.
here, and I had somebody just a week ago when I was at a really wonderful retreat with some friends that some of them I knew, some I didn't, and one of the men that I met that about my age, actually, a little older even. But we were talking, and just started weeping, and I just thanked him and held him, and I started crying too, of course, because I
Mhm.
do. But I sincerely appreciate tears, especially from men,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
because we're so often, you know, stigmatized with this. You know,
Mhm.
we're men. We're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be tough, and we're not allowed to have
Mhm.
feelings, and especially about things like loss, or like the losses that we talk about here every day: the loss of a job, the loss of a friend, the loss
Yeah,
of a
a
dream.
dream.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and those things absolutely affect us. And when we start really opening to them, and if we can be in a position to open space for people, if we can feel comfortable and resourced, as you said, to open that space for people to express in whatever way they need to express, it's a wonderful gift for us
Mhm.
and for them. So
Mhm. Mhm.
what a blessing that we can have that opportunity.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I also wanna be fully transparent that there have been times when I'm not ready to, like, listen. I'm very tired, maybe I'm really
yeah.
stressed about my personal life that, um, I j you know, I have had to tell people, "I see you, and I appreciate that you trust me, and right now, I feel very fragile myself, and I'm not gonna be able to hold on to this really quick," and, if it's a good friend, I'm like, "I think we need to find, so and so friend to show up for us."
Mm,
And that doesn't happen a ton, but I know that those times when I'm just like, I'm anxious inside because
yeah.
I don't have anything in my container to be able to, like, open up myself, and just listen deeply and care and look into their eyes
Mm,
and love them, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
that it's not 100% of the time, even though we're trained, even though Wakil and I have, like, all these skills, I find myself sometimes that I don't want to or I can't, although it happens so much. Strangers all the time talk to me, so I can sit down at an airport waiting for my flight,
Yeah,
and I will hear somebody's, like, tales, and I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, yeah.
okay."
Yeah. Well, and discernment is one of those tools that
That's right.
is in our toolbox, is to be able to discern whether we
Mhm.
are in a position to be of service. And like, as you're saying in the airport, or we did this, we have this nonprofit where we're
Oh,
offering
yeah.
accessibility and affordability for end of life care, and we have a booth that we set up at a farmer's market. And it's another example of when you open a space for people, they either will or they won't. But there's a
Mhm.
much larger yearning for that opportunity than people think. I mean, that, for instance, the person who was the manager of this farmers market, when I first expressed my wish to do this, she said, "I don't think anybody's going to want to stop by and talk to you about loss and grief." And at the end of
Mhm.
the first time, she came by and told us how excited she was that we had come and how sorry she was for being cynical about it. And she said this was the
Mhm.
best thing ever. And she
Mhm.
was bringing people by, I mean, we have had, just that experience of having the opening the space, whether it's your own space because of the person you are, that, you are willing and open to hearing this kind of thing, and people can just
Mhm.
feel that about you, or you open the conversation, and the discernment to know when that's not gonna work or when it's not working. Um, that's people yearn for that, and sometimes people
Mhm.
just don't want anything to do with it, and so
Mhm. Mhm.
we've got to be ready for both and be open to both, and that's part of the work.
That's right. So, hopefully, if you're listening to this, you will, you'll know, like, it is always an invitation to the mystery. You don't know what's gonna be, who
Yeah,
that person in front of you is gonna be, so,
yeah,
be
yeah,
ready.
yeah. Listen to your body. We always love to talk about somatics
Mhm.
too. Listen to your body, and
Mhm.
your body might be the first thing to tell you, "Oh, this isn't going to work." You can,
Mhm.
or this that sort of sixth sense that you can tell somebody's
Mhm.
watching their body, the way they're moving, their body language. feeling what you're
Mhm.
feeling what they're feeling. Those are the clues to help you discern whether you're going in the
Mhm.
right direction or whether you need to change direction or whether you need to just graciously pull away. All the different
Right.
things that are possible in those times. And
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's incredible work. We're so blessed and honored to be able to do this work, and hopefully all
Mhm.
of you get this opportunity as well. And we are glad to support you in any way we can.
That's
So
right.
like us and yeah, and subscribe and join the chat. We have a chat that we'd like to
Emails,
keep
yeah.
going. Email,
Yep.
yeah, we'd like to continue. Substack has a chat for function that we can have an ongoing conversation. We'd love to do that more. So feel free to
Mhm.
jump in on that and let us know how you're doing and any way we can be of service. Much love to all
Yes.
of you.
Adios.
Adios.
Death and dying, grief and loss, conversations about the end of life.